We need to have a little talk about Newcastle United. A win versus Chelsea, a win versus Arsenal, a win versus what was a third place Nottingham Forest side that has taken points off Chelsea, taken points off Liverpool. In fact, the only team to beat Liverpool all season. And Forest go 1-up against Newcastle. You think with the way Forest are playing, they're going to win this game. But you know what? Newcastle won that game, and Newcastle deserved to win that game. They were the better team. They were playing the better football. And I look at the league now, and you might see Newcastle in 8th, I think, which is where you finished. No, you finished 7th last season. But Newcastle are 1 point off 3rd. They're only 1 point behind Forest as things stand. People talk about how good Forest have been. Obviously, whoever wins between Chelsea and Arsenal will go up to, 19 points if it's a draw or so and so. But they're still only 1 point off the top 4 after 11 games. And I think the people sort of wrote off Newcastle a little bit too early, slept on Newcastle a little bit, if I'm going to be totally honest, because I actually predicted Newcastle to finish 5th, I think, this season in my Premier League predictions. I said they're not in Europe. That might play to their advantage. They've got a good side. And when it comes to playing the big teams, I feel like Newcastle know how to do that. I said athletically, they're one of the most talented sides in the league. I think if everybody's fit and, they can get Botman and Shah fit at the back and, their midfield, they've got quite good depth there, with Tonali. I said, I think Newcastle can do something. The big doubt around Newcastle was the lack of transfer window. I felt that you should have gone out and got a right winger. I think you should have gone out and got another centre-back in my honest opinion, in the summer. But I think Newcastle will invest in January. And I think if Newcastle can stay within touching distance of the top 4, invest in the January window, because I genuinely believe that Eddie Howe is a top manager. I think that Newcastle can have a very good season, because I don't think Newcastle have been at their best in elements of the season. It's kind of hard to describe how I feel about Newcastle, because they started well, but I didn't think they were at their best, but they were getting points. And then that sort of caught up with them. But then in these recent games, they've been getting points, and they've been deserving to get the points, and they've been beating these really tough oppositions and playing well. And I want to talk about a few players: Lewis Hall, Bruno Guimaraes. I really like Joe Willock as a player and what he brings to Newcastle. Joelinton playing on the right. I want to talk about that in more detail, but I first of all want to just give you my general thoughts and review on this Newcastle Forest game, because I generally thought Nottingham Forest were going to win today with just how Nottingham Forest have been this season. They've been very good. They deserve to be third watching Forest. But no, I thought Newcastle were absolutely excellent, and Newcastle were the better team. It wasn't like Newcastle got lucky and Harvey Barnes and Joelinton bailed them out. I felt that actually, even at first half, I actually felt that Newcastle were going to get back into that game. I did. I think the referee's decisions didn't go Newcastle's way. I think Ryan Yates was quite lucky, and I think there was a lot of frustration with Newcastle, because I don't think they played bad, but the referee's decision wasn't going their way in the first half. But they did play better in the second half, and I think they were more clinical in the second half, and I think they did play really well and deserved to win the game in the second half. And I think the win over Chelsea, then they won over Arsenal. Now they've won over Forest. I do think momentum, confidence is such a key thing in football that might go a little bit underrated. And I think the win versus Chelsea gave them a boost. They took points off City. They've beaten Chelsea. They've beaten Arsenal. They've beaten Forest. They know that actually they can go toe-to-toe with the big dogs. Now, there might not be the technical levels in Newcastle compared to some of the top 3 or 4 sides, but athletically, they can go toe-to-toe with any side in the league, which gives them an advantage. Sometimes, technically without certain players, Shah's unbelievable on the ball. Lewis Hall's a really technically gifted player. Tonali, Bruno Guimaraes, Isak, all technically gifted players. They've got some good technical players, but they're not quite Liverpool, Arsenal, City level technically, but athletically they are. And I think that's why they can give the big teams a game. Now, my standouts today was Bruno Guimaraes. I think he's been one of my standout players this season. I think his performances, because he's consistently quite good, is going under the radar. Bruno Guimaraes would be my dream midfield signing for Man United, because I'm a Man United fan. I really like Bruno Guimaraes. And he's obviously not going to come to Manchester United. That's why I said dream signing, but I said Bruno Guimaraes, Tchouaméni, Camavinga, like the 3 midfielders I'd love to see in a Man United shirt one day, which I know is going to get people hitting that dislike button, but I'm not saying that's ever going to happen. It's never going to happen. Isak looks much better. I think Isak connects with the attack quite well. I think he was helping the game flow. It wasn't just his goal, but I felt that the focal point he was providing helped the attack connect. I thought Lewis Hall had another good game, and Newcastle remain apparently unbeatable when Willock, Longstaff, Joelinton and Bruno all start together, which is weird, because I think Tonali was very good when he came on, and I think Longstaff is a workhorse off the ball, but I think on the ball Tonali's a lot better. But Willock, with his running powers, his carrying, he kind of runs up in transition with the likes of Isak and Gordon, supports them. Bruno Guimaraes is this technical guy that's also a good duel winner. Joelinton, who's been playing more on the wider positions, is just an off-the-ball monster, and Longstaff's an off-the-ball monster, and maybe the combination of them all works really well together. Maybe it does. And I do think if you look at data around Newcastle and their underlying numbers and stuff, I do think Newcastle have been stronger than some of their recent results suggest. I think Newcastle had a blip where you weren't getting results, and I wouldn't say you were looking amazing, but you weren't getting results. But I think people were like, yeah, Newcastle will crack the season. There was a lot of negativity around Newcastle, wrote them off. But there's a reason I predicted Newcastle to finish 5th at the start of the season. I think I finished 5th, predicted 5th. Maybe I predicted 6th. I think I predicted Newcastle to finish above Villa because of the injury crisis that Newcastle had last year, my trust in Eddie Howe as a manager, and the quality that Newcastle had. The big question mark was the lack of transfer window. But I did think Newcastle would finish 5th or 6th. I generally think they still can. I think there's things they need to work on. They need to invest in January. But I think they've got a good side. I think they played well. I thought they were a lot better in build-up. I think they defensively did well. I think coming from behind to beat a third-place Forest side shows, for me, that sort of mentality, the sort of work rate, the desire of the players. And I think that win over Chelsea particularly has given them a big boost because they're just 1 point behind third. Now, I saw this tweet from Luke Edwards, and I completely agree with this because I'm someone, even as a Man United fan, that I think, really backs Eddie Howe. Excellent performance from Newcastle, probably the most complete all areas of the side excelling of the season. Win moves them up to 8th, 1 point off top 4. Given they should have beaten Everton and got at least a point against Brighton, it's been a really strong start this season. I agree they should have probably beaten Everton and got a point against Brighton, which could have Newcastle in 3rd place right now, which is crazy to think about. If another result had gone their way, they could have been in 3rd place right now, which is crazy. And when you have secured a talented manager who improves every player, who's secured 2 top 7 finishes in 2 years, reached 1 cup final, who understands the club and the style of football the fans want to see, you don't turn on them at the first bad patch. And I saw people online turning on Eddie Howe just a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's too reactionary. People turned on him a bit again last season, then he sort of pulled it back to get Newcastle 7th place, which wasn't bad in the end when you look at the injury crisis he had. I think because Newcastle had that Champions League season, I think maybe some fans expect top 4, but I don't think those Newcastle fans realise how hard it is to finish in the top 4 in the Premier League. Chelsea look good. Tottenham have been hit and miss, but have looked good at times and spent a lot of money. Arsenal, Liverpool and City are a given. It's Man United, Villa, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Tottenham all competing for that 4th spot. It's so difficult to get top 4 in the Premier League. And I think if Eddie Howe doesn't get top 4, people were like, Eddie Howe out. But I think, for him to be competing and getting close to that European level is good. And I think if with some investment, I think he can get there. And then you pull behind him even more. I said Eddie Howe's name being so home and away at the moment is a very powerful show of the support. So home and away at the moment, support the team have. And I think Newcastle look motivated. I think Eddie Howe is a fantastic manager. And I think he does improve players, and he's utilised Joelinton on the right. I don't want to make this video too long because I'm recording this at half-time in the Arsenal-Chelsea game. So I'm going to power through some points here on individual players. But I said Joelinton, really good today. Goal, really good. Bruno Guimaraes controlled the midfield, but Joelinton was everywhere, winning back the ball, pressuring the ball, the press, the running, the work rate. I think off the ball, there's an athletic monster in Joelinton. He's a unique profile of player that is strong, that is fast, that can run a lot, that can cause problems, that can create issues. I think Willock and Joelinton, they were carrying the ball forward. They were really helping Gordon and Isak in those transition opportunities, so they weren't so isolated, which I think is why Isak had a much better game today. I think Joelinton was showing his strength, his athleticism, but he was winning back the ball, and he's a good finisher as well. And I think since moving to the wings, he's done quite well. But I think Joelinton looks best on the right side, maybe as a right attacking midfielder. But he looked really good in the right wing role today. And I think because it was something unpredictable, he's so unique physically. He can drive the ball forward. He can push your players. He has that energy. And I think the energy and intensity that Newcastle can play at causes issues. Bruno Guimaraes ran the show in the second half. I think Tonali, when he came on, worked well with him, the technical security there, but he's a great duel winner. He reads the game so well out of possession. His positional awareness is duel winning. His ability to read the game out of possession, make those fouls, the mentality, the ground coverage, the work rate he has. A lot of people don't like Bruno Guimaraes. People call him a shithouse, but if he plays for your team, you're going to effing love him, aren't you? Has the ability to start transitions. The way he can break up play and then start transitions and move the ball forward quickly. There's one thing being great off the ball, but if you can win back the ball, move it quick, break up play and start transitions, you help your team, which is why I think Subamende was so sought after in the summer. He can break lines of his passing, he can break team ties down, and on and off the ball, he's got what you want. In the Premier League this season, he's won the most duels, he's won the most ground duels, he's won the most possession, he's won the most fouls, and he's played the joint most through balls. His ability to win back the ball is great, which everyone wants in their DM, but only very few DMs are good and talented on the ball, and he's got both, and would be a dream signing for me. In attack, just general notes, 4 and 4 for Isak. Harvey Barnes looks clutch, cheat code off the ball, off the bench, of his goals. I think Harvey Barnes looks better when he comes off the bench. He's always fresh. He comes off, he makes an impact. He reminds me of Trossard of Arsenal and Jota of Liverpool, where they're clinical, they're good finishers, and you get them in that left sort of half space. They cut and they shoot. That's what he's about. He's very good sort of getting close to goal, give him a shooting opportunity or finish. I think sometimes when he starts, he doesn't influence the game throughout, but I think he's a good player. But off the bench, if you need a goal, he's clutch. And I think if Newcastle brought a top-tier right winger, Gordon gets back in form on the left, Isak is the striker, and Harvey Barnes is the option off the bench, that is one of the best attacking lines that you can have in the Premier League. And Isak himself thinks had a slow start to the season, but he's now got 25 goals since the start of last Premier League season. So he's up there with Haaland, Palmer and Salah. So that shows Isak's quality. And I wanted to give a shout out to Joe Willock. I think his running power is good. I think he carries the ball well. I think the legs, the athleticism, the desire to get forward, the carrying the ball forward, the movement he makes on and off the ball to open up space. I think he's a good player. I think he's an underrated player. And I've always been a big fan of Joe Willock. Let me know your thoughts down below, Newcastle fans. Thank you for watching. Bye.